Hollywood romance in a New York minute. My girls and I decided to take a trip to New York for the NBA All-Star Weekend. We certainly weren't going because we were fans of basketball. It was just an idea that we came up with to meet some ballers, as in men with money. We do this sometimes, but this was the first time we went to another city, let alone a large event. All four of us loaded up for the trip. We had our red bottoms and Prada in tow. We were ready to mingle with celebrities, sports figures, the music industry, and whatever else came our way. Whenever you have four personalities on a trip, you know there is always one in the bunch that gets real drunk, one that has bathroom sex, one that wants to leave, and one that is sensible watching all of them. I'm the sensible one, and I'm going to tell you a little about the weekend we had in New York. I've never been to New York, and I can say it was a busy city. Snow was on the ground, but it didn't seem to matter to anyone. People were still out and walking around like crazy. When we arrived on Friday, we were on go. We went to a lounge in Manhattan and were quite impressed by the fine dudes we saw. They were chocolate, butter pecan, caramel, and dark chocolate. Everywhere you looked, all you saw was the brothers coming out to represent. We didn't know which one to look at. It was so many of them. As soon as we walked in, one of my girls wanted to use the restroom. We all strolled toward the restroom, knowing we were impeccably dressed and no other females could hang with us. That is when he approached and asked my name. I was a bit startled because he came out of nowhere, and he was so fine that I almost fell. He said that he was a player for a well-known team and that he was in town for All-Star. He asked me why I was there, and I said, I like basketball. I couldn't think of anything to say because I was still stuck. Thank God my girls came out of the bathroom and I had to leave. As I was letting him know that I had to leave, he grabbed my hand and held it to his mouth and lightly brushed it with his soft lips and said, I want to see you again. As fine as he was, I would have left my girls if it hadn't been for us already having other plans. I put my number in his phone and I let him know I will look forward to his call. Although it was freezing, my girls and I were really enjoying New York, and we couldn't find any similarities to California. A guy that we met from New York called it Brick City. He said, that's what it feels like out here, and you see all this bricks. That evening, we decided that we wanted to go to the hottest event in New York and just hang with anybody that was somebody. We had already met a few New Yorkers, ball players, and some rappers. Everyone was a celebrity, so it was so many to choose from. The night caught up with us really fast, and we headed to a club in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It was real classy. Not as big as the California clubs, but big enough and nice enough to fit the well-dressed crowd. People were everywhere, watching, dancing, and talking. And of course, we headed to the restroom first. As I approached the restroom, someone caught my eye, and it seemed I caught theirs. It was Cutie Pie from the other night, and he was looking dead at me. He grabbed my hand as I walked by and gave me a big hug as if we'd known each other for years. We talked for a minute, and then he actually asked me to dance. We danced fast, we danced slowly. It was like we was one with the music and nobody was there but us. He was funny, smart, fine, and I remembered hearing his name on television before. He ordered a few drinks that I never drank before, and it seemed that he was a fan of blue drinks. I thought he was the perfect gentleman, and I felt safe with him. We talked for a while and got to know each other. He talked about his son, his car, and I talked about my job and friends. He asked if I wanted to get some air, and I really needed that because I was suffocating in this place. I text my girls and let them know I was heading outside, but I may stay with him and I will let them know. We went outside and he held me while walking and had me laughing. At that point, I was on go, ready for whatever he wanted to do for the rest of the night. He said he had a driver and I wanted to see Central Park. I was scared, but I was with him and I hadn't seen it before, so why not? It seems that I was in a why not mood that night after being with him. We kissed in the car and touched each other like we were meant to be. When we got to Central Park, he had the driver park on one of the inside streets. We went to an area with a playground, but then we walked further back into the park. He was holding me, massaging the small of my back, and kissing my neck. It was over then. We stopped and kissed and went behind a tree and did everything we could think of. That tree and cold air didn't stop anything. He was amazing, and I wanted to keep this man forever. He had the softest lips, and he smelled so good. I just knew this was going to be my future. As we were heading back to the car, I was thinking about later that day and already making my plans to see him. He had the driver take me to my hotel, and we talked a little on the way. When we arrived at the hotel, he walked me to the elevator and kissed me on my neck and said goodnight. Later that day, I was waiting to hear from him, and I waited, and nothing. I kind of felt stupid that my head was all in the clouds and I didn't get his number. My girls and I went shopping and bought everything we saw. New York really had some nice clothes, and although we could shop all night, we knew that we had to get back to the hotel so we could prepare to leave tomorrow morning. My girls were asking me what happened to my friend, and I didn't know what to say because I didn't know. It seemed like everything was fine, and he was really into me. He was a perfect gentleman. He shared himself, and he cared about my safety. At this point, all I could do was just hope that he would call before I fell asleep. The next day, we left New York, and I arrived home in California, and I still didn't hear from him. I don't know what to say about this, but what I do know is it's been 2 weeks, and I still haven't heard from him since that night. Kashana.